Hey guys, Chris with 4K Motoring back with you today. Still got some charging issues on the Corvette, so I wanted to discuss those a little bit with you. So what I've noticed has been happening ever since I got the alternator replaced, because it wasn't charging. I've noticed that I've been getting a charging system error when I first start the car for the day for the first couple minutes. The voltage on the driver information center and on the gauge cluster, both the analog and digital, both record, above 13 volts the whole time. I've seen it as low as like 13.4, but for the most part it's 13.8 to 14.1, kind of right in the range it's supposed to be. So I don't really think it's a alternator, a voltage regulator issue, because that seems to be okay. I've noticed when I drive it all day, it seems to kind of correct itself as the day goes on. It only does it right in the morning, kind of right after I first start it for the day and get in stop and go traffic, and then it goes away as I drive for the rest of the day. It doesn't come back. So because of all that, I've kind of been led to believe it may be a battery issue. I know the C5 is very picky about a lot of things electrical, so there's a bunch of things it could be. Ignition switches, the actual wiring from the starter to the battery to the alternator, lots of different points of failure. I haven't really noticed any corrosion on any of the ground points that I've checked so far. Everything seems to be pretty clean at this point with this car, just with its history, and I don't really anticipate a whole lot there. Obviously it could be. So I know the battery has died at least once on me since I've had it. I don't know how old the battery is in total. I believe 2 or 3 years old is all I think it is, but it was in the car when I bought it, so who really knows? It's not stamped on it. So I know the battery's gone dead at least once with me, and it only does this error after it's sitting overnight, which makes me think that potentially the battery has a bad cell or has started to not hold the charge as well as it should. And while it's charging up in the morning or building a charge when I first start driving it, that's when it shows the error. So this is what I'm going to try. I have been driving it all day today. Unfortunately, I didn't get the multimeter out to test it before I started driving, so I don't know if I'm going to get an accurate number when I actually test it up, plug it up here to see what voltage it has, see if maybe there's a draw on the car or what the issue is. But I did go ahead and buy a new battery, and I'll show you what that is right here. Here's our battery. Classic Opno red top. I know most people will say that it is not what it used to be as far as the company goes, as far as the batteries go, since they started making them, I believe, in Mexico now. But still, those of you that know with the C5 Corvette, the battery sits right above where the computer is in the car, and typical lead acid batteries have the potential of leaking battery acid down, which is very corrosive, which if that gets in the computer kind of ruins all of it. So you're supposed to have an AGM battery in these cars. Whoever previously put a battery in this car did not put an AGM battery. It was just a normal lead acid cheap battery. So we're going to go ahead and hopefully get this one swapped in, because this is what's supposed to be there in there anyway. And on a side note, hopefully it fixes that issue with the morning or early driving voltage issues, charging system errors. So let's go ahead and get that in and see what we have. Okay, we're going to start by popping the hood. All of you should know where that is by now. I believe I've done that on this channel quite a lot. There we are. So we'll see the alternator is still connected. This is hot because I've just been driving it. Make sure everything's still tight, which it looks like it is. I don't see any issues with that. So we'll go ahead and we'll follow that around just to make sure we have a good connection, but we'll go over to that battery and see what voltage we have now that's been sitting for just a couple minutes. Well, we will again go ahead and test this battery. As you guys have seen before, we're going to go to volts DC here. That's our negative black wire and our positive wire there. So after driving it for a while, there's our voltage. So that doesn't look bad, but we know a charge battery should sit at 12.6 volts, should be about what we hold, just the way the cells are in these batteries. Well, here they are, side by side. You can see the two batteries, roughly the same size. They've got the placement of the leads here, same place, positive, negative, same side, so that's good. As we can see from the rating of the battery that was in there, 850 cranking amps and 690 cold cranking amps. We can see we've increased that a little bit with the new battery. 44 amp hours. Does not specify on the Napa battery the amp hours, but we'll go ahead and stick that in. So this is the tray where it belongs to. Has a little locking tab, goes in the front. We can see our negative here. Goes around, grounds to the frame here. Doesn't look very corroded, looks pretty good actually for the age. And we've got our positive lead here that we've cleaned both of them off here. The positive then goes to the starter, which is right under here, and then over to the alternator. So that connector is sometimes corroded and bad. That's what gets you some of your voltage issues. But as far as the fuse center and all that, that connector looks good. So I'm thinking it's probably more of a battery issue than anything else. From here, we're just going to go ahead and drop in this battery. Try not to get any leads in the way. Alright, that fits right in the tray there pretty well. Gotta get these leads all the way up. There we go. We are in the tray. This is a little bit narrower than the factory battery, and the base is a very tight fit, but if you end up sliding it kind of so it's centered almost completely, it does fit in. It doesn't overlap anything. It does fit secure, so it can be locked down. From here, we'll go ahead and get the two negative and positive terminals hooked back up, and from there, we'll go ahead and test the battery and see how that looks. Alright, so we'll go ahead and tighten that down here. Keep that lead straight down. Alright, now we will go ahead and attach our positive. There we go. So we are now on as far as the positive goes. Crank that down, get our leads kind of straightened out if we can. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put our locking tab on the bottom. This is going to be a 13 millimeter. Alright, battery is secure. It was that easy. And now that that is completed, we will go ahead one more time and test our voltage of our new battery. See where we are. So we're sitting uncharged from the store, just the way it came, 12.49. I'm gonna go ahead and start the car now and see where our voltage goes. So the car started back up just fine. With our driver information center, we did have better numbers displayed. Where at idle, our old battery was struggling to show us 13.6 to 13.8 range. This is already right at that 14 volts, which is good. So as we can see on our multimeter here, that's our number from our new Optima battery, where I don't believe our old Napa battery ever could have matched that. I believe there was some cell damage that happened in this. Whenever you run a lead acid battery dry, or not dry, but whenever it dies, sulfur builds up on the lead plates and it doesn't hold a charge quite the same way. Same way with hot, when it gets really hot, with the electrolyte issue. There's a lot of things that can go in the lead acid battery that make it not optimal. So we swapped that out. It did test good at the Advanced Auto Store with their tester, but we've swapped it out, put the new one in. Hopefully that fixes our problem. As you can see, it definitely looks a little bit better in there. Matches the car. which is always important. So we'll go ahead and close the hood here. Alright, that's latched. So now we've got another issue that's been plaguing me for a little while that I think might be my fault, might not. As I've mentioned, these reverse lights with the keys, they turn on just fine. So with the key fob here, when I press the unlock button, there we go. These are very bright, they light up instantly, they're awesome. I noticed after putting them in, however, they didn't turn on when I got in reverse. I don't know if the original bulbs did, so that is my mistake, I did not check that. But I know these did not. After a lot of issues, I went ahead and I replaced the sensor in the transmission, the reverse, basically the little reverse switch in the transmission. And that was a whole ordeal, as I've shared. So I replaced that, and I had good reverse lights for a little while. It's gone out again. This hasn't been 3 months after I replaced this switch. I don't imagine 2 switches have gone bad just by themselves. It keeps blowing the fuse. I can replace the fuse, and then the lights will blow again when they turn on from the reverse switch for reverse gear. It won't blow anything at all when I hit the lock or unlock button. They work just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and change these back to the incandescent bulbs, see if that makes a difference. I'll swap the fuses and see if that lasts a little bit longer. That might give us a little clue as to what might be the issue. If you guys have never changed these bulbs, there are, I believe they're T15 Torx bolts, 4 of them here. I don't believe there's any behind the plate. I don't think you need to take the plate off if I remember right, but it's just the 4 here. We'll take this whole black plastic unit off. It's all one piece, and you can get to the bulbs that are right behind it. So these are the lights right here. There's a little locking tab you press in, and you just rotate these counterclockwise, and they pop out. You can see the LEDs I was using. There we go, and this whole piece, one of the few Chevrolet logos on the car, comes out, and now we can swap those bulbs. So it just so happens we had a unopened pack of bulbs that'll fit. I don't believe the 2057 is what needed. I believe 2056 works. You don't need the dual filament, but these should work just the same in there. So let's go ahead and pop them in and see if the incandescent makes any difference. So these do only go in one way. There is a high pin and a low pin on these. They just push in, twist, and then they lock inside. It's really hard to do this without touching the bulb, so if you do that, just make sure you wipe it down. Make sure there's no finger oils left on the bulb before you install it. Bulb's twisting clockwise. There are some pins that can locate all of it in there. And it's that simple. We'll go ahead and screw it back in and be done. Alright, so we're going to give it a test here with the key. Definitely a slower response. Not quite as bright as the LEDs that were in there. So let's go ahead and replace that reverse fuse and see if these will stay on for a little while. As you guys know, the interior fuse panels I've showed before is here in the passenger side floorboard. So we'll go ahead and let me make sure I have my pliers out. Fancy fuse pullers here. So there's 2 locking tabs up at the top, as I've showed before. We'll go ahead and pull that out. And this is our fuse box. So per the diagram here, we're looking for fuse number 21, which as you can see there, kind of right in the center, should be that one right there. There we go. And as you can see, if that's in focus at all for you, definitely blown. So I do have a replacement 20 amp here. I believe it was 10 from the factory. All I have is a couple 20s. Here's the don't do this at home disclaimer. But I just want to see if with that in there now, we can activate the reverse lights and it stays on without blowing that fuse. So as I've read, the car does not need to be on, just the key needs to be in the on position. You can put the car in reverse and we'll see what lights come on. Well, unfortunately I heard that telltale snap of that fuse blowing as well. So our issue was not in those reverse lights, it was in fact with that switch. It's only like a $9 switch at AutoZone. Kind of a pain to get to. It's up underneath the car. It is accessible without disassembling anything else, but you do have to get underneath it. So we'll go ahead and order another one of those and see how that one holds up. Well, I believe that's all the troubleshooting we can do today. I did go ahead and put the LEDs back in the car because I do like those better since they really made no difference. We'll go ahead and order another switch. I'll post the link to that here just so you guys know what you are looking for. And otherwise, hopefully new battery works out. I'll let you know if anything changes. Car seems to be good to go. As long as we keep making it better, we'll keep doing this. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you guys have experienced this sort of thing before, also let me know what you guys did to fix it. And hopefully C5 won't be an electrical gremlin nightmare car. So with that, we're 4K Motoring. Please stay tuned and we'll be back.